Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beard and a Half Movie Reviews. I'm your host today, Tyler, and it's just me. And this week's episode is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. This movie came out on April 15th, 2022, and is finally on streaming platforms such as Amazon Prime Video, HBO Max, and Hulu. Everywhere else, you gotta pay like $20. So I'm gonna save you a lot of trouble today. So this is gonna mark, I believe, what is this episode? Technically 18, but I'm gonna post it as episode 17. It's gonna be a little confusing because Garrett did his solo podcast. I'm doing mine. The same thing goes. I wish I had my better half with me today. Unfortunately, just like Garrett with his Paramount Plus subscription, I do not want to watch the Halo series that is not even based on anything. And Garrett doesn't want to watch anything Harry Potter related. It makes sense. I understand. Everybody, we have to move along from this, okay? I understand. I kind of was like deep down hoping, that Garrett was going to be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll watch it. And then just shit on the entire movie. That's what I was hoping would happen. But my hopes were low because I knew he wouldn't do it. But with that being said, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to try and change it up just a little bit for everybody listening. The way I'm going to roll things is I'm going to try and give you my best elevator pitch for the movie. Meaning if we were in an elevator for a brief 15, 20 seconds, I would tell you how great this movie is or how bad this movie is. So with that being said, was it a good movie? With no main storyline to actually base it off of and just kind of winging it, I would call it a success for what it is. If you love Harry Potter and just the idea of it, it's going to be something worth watching. If you think because most of the people that grew up on Harry Potter are probably adults now. Just going to be honest with you. But since most of us are adults, this movie is probably not meant for us, just like the new Star Wars weren't meant for us. This movie is going to be more catered to the younger audiences. That really they just get to see some cool stuff, a little bit of wizardry, and all that fun jazz. Now, with that being said, do I still recommend the movie? Absolutely. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it very thoroughly. And yeah, that about wraps that up. And I'm going to go ahead and just jump into the cast and give you just the basics of what you need to know as far as to who was in the movie. We got Jude Law playing Albus Dumbledore. We got Cara Mahoney. Apparently she played a waitress. I'm just going off IMDb, and I know I shouldn't, but I am. We got Mads Mikkelsen, who played Gellert Grindelwald. We'll get into that in a minute. I got Eddie Redmayne, who played Newt Scamander. I got Ezra Miller, who played Credence Barebone. And I got Richard Coyle in here. He played Aberforth. Let's see. I got Fiona Glasgow in here, who played Professor McGonagall. I don't know why. Let me just run through. Yeah, I'm not seeing anybody else that's pretty notable. So we are going to go ahead and we move forward. As far as where this movie was filmed, shockingly enough, most of this was shot on a green screen. Actually, pretty much all of it was shot in the Leavesden studio, which is in Leavesden, which is in Hertfordshire, England, which is in the UK. If you don't know where that is, I can't help you any more than I just did. And then it looks like one scene was shot at the Windsor Great Park in Windsor, which is also in England, which is also in the United Kingdom. If you need me to explain even more, you just geologically, look at a map, and then just point at UK, and that's where it was filmed. Again, I'm doing some interesting things. I am going to recommend as far as ways to watch the movie. I know I listed them off for you, and I don't believe that this movie. I don't believe that the movie is in theaters still. But if it was, I bet it was beautiful. Me personally, I threw it on the projector in my living room, so it was kind of like a mini cinema, and I still thoroughly enjoyed it. So, as far as that goes, the bigger the screen, the better it's going to be. That's just going to be factual for anybody that wants to watch this movie. Um, Now, with that being said, I'm going to hop into my likes and dislikes and kind of go over a couple of things with you. Some of it may upset some listeners that enjoy Harry Potter. Other than that, who knows? We'll get into it, obviously. So starting off, um, I enjoyed the cinematics and the way that the scenes were shot. I'm such a just a sucker for good quality cinematography. Um, Sorry, I just realized didn't really give a good premise as far as the plot of the movie. Um, Basically, as far as the plot goes for the movie, Dumbledore hiding secrets, Grindelwald wanting to take over the world, per usual, have a war between the Muggles and the magical people, and pretty much just take out both sides. Fuck it. But basically, this whole movie's premise revolves around what's called a Chillin, which is a magical beast that can see the goodness in people and the bad in people. And as far as wizardry electorals go, their premise was that they are going to elect somebody to lead them. And the way they do it is they use a Chillin to decide who is going to lead them because it can see the most good intentioned, strong, and powerful leader, we'll say, that will lead them. Basically, it's the only way to throw in Eddie Redmayne's character of Newt Scamander into this movie, and it's kind of, wishy washy and it's weird. With that being said, though, I will say some of my favorite things that I enjoyed about the movie is since Grindelwald has the power. Let me just explain. Sorry, it gets confusing. Obviously, spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie, I apologize. Stop listening now, and then go watch the movie. Then come back. Come back to me. So some of the things that I enjoyed is you saw this if you watched the trailer that Newt was talking about. The best plan is not having a plan at all. And because Grindelwald kind of knows the future and he kind of knows what's going to happen, basically because there was a Chillin at the very beginning of the movie that Eddie Redmayne's character Newt found, that was giving birth, and it gave birth to one of the Chillins, and Credence's character as well as two others came in. They attacked Newt, and they took the Chillin that he had, the little baby that was born, and they killed the adult birthing mother Chillin, and then just kind of ran off. Come back, Newt came back to the dead Chillin. It had apparently given birth to another one. Just not a premise to follow, but it gave birth to twins. It was a little. It's like not at the same time, so kind of weird. Anyways, moving on. Another thing that I enjoyed. Well, I didn't enjoy it, but it was one of my likes because the plot takes place during like, I think it's, bro, I'm gonna find it. Bear with me 2 seconds. I am just gonna pause and come back to you. Hey, look, I'm back. Sorry about that. So, the film was set in 1932, And one of the things that kind of bugged me is that McGonagall was in it, and she didn't even start Hogwarts until 1956, and she wasn't even born until 1935. So I'm not saying shit doesn't make sense, but shit didn't make sense just with that premise alone. And I'm gonna just hop into some more of my likes. Um, like I said, the film was set in 1932, but I enjoyed how the German Ministry of Magic kind of just looked like a Third Reich headquarters, even though, that wasn't, I don't think that was a thing yet. Um, Another thing that I really enjoyed is how a lot of the smaller characters from the earlier movies, such as Bunty and Jacob, actually got a lot more screen time prior to the last two films. And they turned out to be, character development wise, they actually turned into some enjoyable characters. Um, Another thing that I liked, there was a scene with Dumbledore and Credence kind of fighting in the middle of some German streets, and it kind of appeared as if during their fight, Dumbledore used the Deluminator and kind of took out all the dark or the light, and they kind of just fought in the shadows. And I'm gonna be honest with you, that was fantastic. I absolutely loved the way that looked. Um, there was another scene a little bit later on, where and forgive me for those of you that have actually watched the movie. I might be misspeaking on this one, but it seemed like the German head of magic is what I'm going to call it because I didn't really understand that plot. Um, was relinquishing his power to either a Chinese candidate or a French candidate. She could have been Indian. I don't remember because it wasn't very specific. Um, but regardless, they were all at this like banquet, and there was attack on the female, which again couldn't really discern if she was French or Indian. But there was an attack on her life, and the entire scene after that, where they were fighting the people that were attacking her, it was phenomenal. It was probably more action than we've gotten out of any Harry Potter movie. Jumping forward to another one of my scenes that I enjoyed, there was a scene where Theseus, which is Newt's brother, he gets captured, and Newt goes to this like weird underground jail sort of thing, kind of like Azkaban, but not. But basically, we saw kind of a little bit of that in the actual trailers for the movie, where Newt's kind of like gyrating around, doing sort of like a weird crab walk. We saw the crabs in the trailers for it, but there he's actually just going in and attempting to rescue Theseus. And I liked pretty much the entirety of that scene. It was kind of like a little comical relief throughout the entirety of the movie because the movie's tone is set to be a little bit more serious. It's kind of preparing for like the end fight between Grindelwald and Dumbledore. And we don't get that in this movie. We get a little bit, but not too much. We'll get into it. Um, but yeah, so basically, whenever Newt goes to rescue his brother, he has to give his little Niffler or whatever it was called, and the little twig guy. Don't remember his name. Can't tell you. To just this guy, right? Yeah, he's just like the run of the mill kind of like, I've got this. I'm gonna go ahead and keep these guys from you while you go in there. Like the real kind of annoying jailer type guy. Anyway, he has this gold tooth. So he puts Newt's wand, the Niffler, and the little leaf guy up, and Newt goes in to rescue his brother in this weird sort of giant chasm cave sort of thing, with hundreds of thousands of gyrating crabs. So he goes in, rescues his brother, and meanwhile, the Niffler and the other thing are just trying to escape. And so they manage to escape, and they kind of fall in this real slow-mo cinematic way, and you see Newt's wand and the little leaf guy falling together, and you see the Niffler that looks like he's about to go and like grab him and help him, but instead he just grabs as many gold coins while he's falling through the air in slow motion. And I absolutely found that hysterical. So, anyways, I know I brought up the gold tooth and the weird British guard for a weird reason, but at the end of that, at the end of the slow mo falling scene, they had landed on him and like knocked him out. And then you see him like chasing down the Niffler, and meanwhile, while Newt is rescuing Theseus with a whole bunch of gyrating crabs around him, there's a giant one that like shoots fire and lava out of his tail. And it reminded me of the fourth Harry Potter game with the blast-ended Scroots. If anyone's played the video games, they know what I'm talking about. They were a pain in the ass. But it reminded me of that, and I just wanted it to be confirmed that that's what it was, and it turns out it wasn't. But it reminded me a lot of that, and I enjoyed that thoroughly. Don't know why. Going forward, so at the end of the movie, well, I guess towards the end of the movie, Grindelwald was aware that there was another Chillin that was born, and basically, I guess at the beginning of the movie, he had killed the first Chillin and then bewitched it. And he had gotten himself pretty much a get out of jail free card with the German Minister of Magic. And he's a free man, and he decided to go ahead and throw himself in the presidential race. And he had pitched the idea of using a Chillin to see who was worthy to lead them. And basically, Grindelwald was aware that there was another Chillin born that could ruin all of his plans, and it was kept in Newt's case. So Bunty, one of the other characters, which is Newt's assistant, she went ahead and had half a dozen cases made, all replicas of Newt's, in order to basically do a wild goose chase as far as which case was which that had the Chillin in it, whenever they went to the place that the meeting was being held. Not the meeting, it was more of like an inauguration sort of thing. So basically, everybody at the end of the movie got a case, and in those cases were random things that we didn't figure out until like the bad guys cornered one of them, because I know Bunty, Jacob, Theseus, Newt, some random woman that I can't remember her name. There were only 5 cases used, and it bugged me because they made 2 extra ones and they didn't even use them. So I was like, you know what? It's whatever. Not if that is the most concerning part of the movie to me, it is what it is. But it wasn't. But Dumbledore had bewitched them. One of them shot out just like thousands of pastries and just impaled the first person that decided to open it. One of them was books, and it was like in the third Harry Potter movie with Hagrid's like evil book that you just stroke the spine and it doesn't attack you. Dumbledore had bewitched a case that was just full of those and was just attacking everybody, and it was super funny. Another one had just a bunch of Quidditch stuff in there, so there was a Quaffle, there were bludgers, there was a snitch, and those things were just beating the absolute shit out of people. Like, you would just watch a bludger fly by and hit a dude off the roof of just one of these buildings that they were just, so happily to stand on. And it was just hilarious. Another thing is, so at the, I would call it almost a climax. It was the climax of the movie. So they're at this weird temple where the inauguration is being held, and the bewitched Chillin is there, and of course it picks Grindelwald rather than the Chinese guy or the Indian/French woman, and but as soon as they get there, everyone's like, no, that's not the real one, it's a fake one. They killed that one, and I have the real one, and I'll show you. And basically this is live for everybody around the world. So they're like, no, there's nothing we can do. We just kind of have to let this play out. So the real chillin' comes out and it's walking around the crowd and it sees Dumbledore and it bows to him first before anybody else. And I thought that was kind of, when I say kind of neat, it's humorous because in the other Harry Potter books, Dumbledore had referenced that he was a candidate to be the prime minister. And I thought that was pretty humorous because I believe that was the point when he was a candidate to be the prime minister. So I'm just throwing that in there for you. Then right after that, there was a shadow fight between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And when I say a shadow fight, basically it looks like whenever like Dumbledore goes to fight somebody, it just the whole scene becomes brighter. Details and things in the background just become white, and it just becomes like Dumbledore and whoever he's fighting, and that's pretty much all you can see besides their magic. I don't know why, but I absolutely loved it. His fight scenes, Dumbledore disapparates, or apparates, whatever you want to call it. He just teleports around, and that's like his fighting style is he just disapparates around and then will cast a spell and then go in different places. It's like the weirdest, coolest thing I have ever seen, and I really love his fighting style because you actually get to see it. Because in like the fifth Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, whenever he fights Voldemort, it's cool and all, but like it's not great. His fighting style that we see in this movie actually low-key kind of sick. Now with that being said, I don't know if I'm checking my phone real quick just to make sure because I know I took some more notes. Oh, okay. So this one falls more under the category of not dislikes but interesting things that I noticed. So there's your one burp per episode, per our quota. So I'm going to hop into my dislikes now, and I want you guys to be aware that I had probably equal amount of dislikes as I did likes, and I'm going to start off with the first and foremost. So as most of you are aware, it was very apparent that Johnny Depp was not going to be in this movie. Basically, he still got his $16 million out of the movie because his contract is what they call pay or play, and just basically, if he's in the movie, you pay him one way or another. And he filmed one scene and got his $16 million out of it, and that's it. And unfortunately, due to his defamation trial, which he won, but won't be in another Fantastic Beasts, I can't remember what his name is. It bugs me so much to say it. Mads Mikkelsen. Mikkelsen? Yeah. He's a great actor, don't get me wrong. But one of my main issues is that this movie was way too soft. Like, this one showed more or less like a Grindelwald kind of appeasing to people. And if you watch the first and the second one, especially the second one, as Johnny Depp's Grindelwald, he literally murdered a family, had like caskets and stuff ready to go and a chauffeur to take the caskets out, and he just moved into their house. Like, Johnny Depp's Grindelwald was actually what I picture a ruthless villain to be, and he portrayed it well. This Grindelwald that Mads plays is more or less like, man, Dumbledore, I know you love me, but like, you ain't gonna hurt me. I haven't hurt anybody. So we're just gonna play this one under the rug and see where it goes. And I just feel like his version of Grindelwald is weak and it's not good. And I know, but I wish Johnny Depp played it because I feel like Johnny Depp's version of it would have been way better. And I already know for a fact it would have been because Johnny Depp had so much screen time in the Fantastic Beasts 2. And in this one, Mads also had a fuck ton of screen time. And I just feel like they rewrote the script for him. And they just kind of chop-chopped and kind of called it a day. And I feel like they had something real good for Johnny Depp's character as far as the storyline goes that was a lot more evil. And we will never get to see it, and we never will know what it is. And that is the most unfortunate thing to know. Um, Anyways, hopping into some more of my dislikes. At the very beginning of the movie, when Grindelwald's henchman killed a Chillin, um, whenever Newt comes back, and I'm talking about the adult version of it, whenever Newt comes back, you can still see the Chillin's eye moving around and crying after it had already been killed. Which, I mean, if that's a big pet peeve of mine, cool. But in literally any other Harry Potter, whenever something gets the killing curse used against it, it don't move, it don't blink, it don't cry, nothing. So I just kind of didn't like how that panned out. Um, Moving forward, some more of my dislikes. Whenever they brought the baby Chillin to Grindelwald, Grindelwald kind of just cut the neck of the Chillin and let it kind of bleed all over the place. It kind of reminded me of the first time I went camping with Garrett. If you're unaware of that situation, I did not slice a deer's neck or a Chillin's neck. But Garrett's aunt's dog brought us a baby deer that it had attacked, and I felt like I relived that scene with Grindelwald and the Chillin, just in my mind with going camping and having to just kind of end a baby deer suffering because it was just ripped apart. Anyways, gross. Moving on. I disliked how it seems like most of the German wizards and witches are evil in the movie, which just goes to show that they're villains in cinema. You know, it just pretty much anything you put them in, they are villains as far as cinema is concerned. Um, Another thing that I disliked about the movie is I just absolutely despised how they've tried incorporating Credence's character in the movie still. And it's not that I have anything against Ezra Miller. Well, I mean, in late media, I mean, yeah, the man did try and break into a Hawaii couple's house and pick bar fights. Nothing to do with like Ezra Miller's acting, not his personal life. Because like the Flash, Ezra Miller's Flash, great, love him. Him as a person, different story. But the characters he plays, I enjoy. But I dislike the fact that they keep trying to bring Credence into and incorporate him in the Fantastic Beasts movies. And I get it. He's what they call an obscure, which is just a witch or wizard that has not actually used their power to their fullest potential, and they feel they're unloved, so they just keep that power within until one day they just kind of explode and die. Sort of like Dumbledore's sister, Ariana, which they tried to also incorporate into this movie, which didn't really. It wasn't worth it. They shouldn't have done that. But anyways, we'll get into that in a minute. Again, it's not that I have anything against Ezra Miller or the character, but the fact that they tried to make him a Dumbledore, and then he somehow winded up in New York, and we didn't really have an explanation for that. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh, but in the second one, he was trying to hunt down and track down his mother, and the only person he could find was a dwarf woman that was his mother's handmaiden or something. Or I don't want to say servant, but I mean, just to keep this moving along, I would almost guarantee that's what it was. But yeah, and he didn't find his mother. And I went back and watched the second one just to make sure that I'm not missing over anything, and I still could be. Let me tell you, it was rough watching this and then going back and watching, like the Crimes of Grindelwald, maybe is what that one's called. But then they tried to incorporate Credence's character as a Dumbledore, and said that it was Aberforth's son, who, while Dumbledore and Grindelwald were having their summer lovin', Aberforth was also banging some local tale and getting that strange from a woman down the street. She had a kid, gave that kid to some random woman in America, called it a day. That's as far as that's as far as his story goes. If they literally branched out and gave us 5 more minutes of explanation, maybe, maybe I would believe that. But the fact that it's just one line and that's it kind of defeats the purpose and kind of ruins it for me. Could have done a flashback. They could have done like the pensieve with the memories and just kind of explained it out a little bit. But instead, they did not. And it was kind of a lackluster kind of fuckery to the story, if you will. Anyways, moving on. Um, it's a dislike but a like, so just bear with it. I took a lot of notes. I'm gonna burp again, maybe. We're gonna find out. All right, Morty. Anyway, I enjoy how they explain Ariana and her backstory, even though I know I said I didn't. I did enjoy it, but the thing is that even in the Harry Potter movies, when they introduced her, like in the movie, for example, is what we're basing this off of, she looked super old. Like, I'm assuming most of the obscurers, even from the first movie, they did not live past 5 years old. Credence's character is like 17. Ariana's character in the movie, in the Harry Potter movie, looked like she was like 30. In this movie, same picture, same thing. The only thing that moved was like her blouse, not her face, nothing like that. It was real weird. And I just didn't like that. The other thing that I said that I would get back into is whenever Bunty had commissioned 6 cases to be made so that they could trick Grindelwald, and keep him guessing as far as they could, that way they could get the chillin' to the ceremony by the end of the movie. There was only 5 cases, so she had commissioned 6, so basically there would have been 7 cases, but I guess just 2 of them, oopsie daisy, disappeared. So we're just not gonna, we're gonna bypass that. Towards the end of the movie, during the climax, Grindelwald had called out Jacob, which is a muggle that Dumbledore had given like a fake wand to. And he was at the ceremony because he was one of the people carrying the briefcases. He called him out and he was like, hey, this muggle right here, muggle please. And then used the Cruciatus curse on him, and tortured him. And then again, French or Indian, maybe French Indian, who knows? Probably both, maybe one. She like did this little wand movement and stopped the Cruciatus curse on Jacob. And I was like, I've never heard or seen anybody be able to break the curse, but you know what? We'll move on. But I hated that. Just as an FYI. Another thing, at a certain point, I think that they've just continued the series, just because they have some storylines with other characters such as Dumbledore and Grindelwald that they'd rather be doing. But since they added Newt Scamander's character into it, they just kind of have to incorporate magical creatures in some way, shape, or form, and it makes it weird. I understand that this is the Fantastic Beasts. I also understand that Newt Scamander wrote Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, but I feel like we're just getting into some. When I say petty, I don't mean it in like a bad way, but it seems like they're just being super petty as far as they're just going to write what fans want to hear, and that's it. And I know J.K. Rowling, however you want to say it, she's been under a lot of fire after her transphobic remarks, and I get it. Totally cool. Well, no, not totally cool. Very bad. Man, let me put my foot in my mouth real quick. Basically, it's a screenplay of what she wrote. So, just for clarification, J.K. Rowling had a very heavy presence in all of the Harry Potter movies and pretty much kept them, as close to book accuracy as Hollywood, kind of the touch of Hollywood would let or allow. With the first Fantastic Beasts, I believe she did have a good deal of writing and screenplay in that one, but the next two, next to none. They literally quote it as a screenplay of a screenplay by J.K. Rowling, and other people that have obviously written this, meaning she had the idea, and then some people took the idea and kind of ran with it. And I don't think this is what she had in mind. She's probably just sitting there mad with her millions and millions and millions of transphobic dollars, just kind of vibing it. But I'm gonna tell you this: they need to either figure out a better way of incorporating the beasts, rather than, because I guarantee you the next one is just gonna be all about some weird beast, and somehow that thing's gonna fight Grindelwald with Dumbledore. I don't know. I don't guarantee it, but it's kind of weird when you have a very solid plot line, and then you're like, fuck, we gotta add this, and we gotta make it incorporated in the movie in some way, shape, or form, and just kind of let it go with it. And that's how I feel that the movie has gone. That's the direction. It's it's not that I'm upset or anything like that, but they don't give um, enough storyline. It feels almost, how do I put this? The first Fantastic Beast, fantastic. The second one, fantastic. It's in the title. The third one was very empty. Like it was missing something and filled with just cool magic and cinematography, and that's pretty much it. Also missing Johnny Depp. Whereas the other ones were actually very well written and directed, and it just felt like this movie was missing a lot, and the storyline was so linear but branched off just to incorporate some of the lesser characters as well as the Fantastic Beast, and where to find it, obviously, which was done in the first 10 minutes of the movie, and then you could have just left Newt out the rest of it. And yeah, I don't know, man, it bugged me. It bugged me so much, because without Johnny Depp's, like, assassin kind of Grindelwald in here, it wasn't good enough for me, because we've seen Voldemort, and super bad guy, and they were like, Grindelwald was the Voldemort, and yet you see him at a tea party just kind of vibing with his friends, and you're just like, this guy is a pussy. And then, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you want to hear. I did not enjoy this movie as much as I thought I would, and it became very lackluster with the very ever-thinning plot the more that it continued. Now, with that being said, I'm done with my dislikes, and I would like to throw some interesting facts at you before we wrap this bad boy up. The first interesting thing that I noticed is when Dumbledore was talking with Newt. He said that the bird comes to him because he's dying. I know the signs. So he was referring to the fox, which was the phoenix that was flying around in the second one, right at the end of the movie, kind of with cretins. Sort of like the fox that we saw in all the Harry Potter movies. That was Dumbledore's pet, which led me to believe that in the Harry Potter movies, the Phoenix stayed with Dumbledore as a pet because he knew Dumbledore was dying. And I don't know if that's a real thing or not, or they just somehow ruined a plot in Harry Potter or anything. But when I was rewatching the second Harry Potter movie, another interesting thing, Newt was talking with Dumbledore, and Dumbledore had said that the Phoenix would come to a Dumbledore in need. Again, mentioning the Phoenix because Credence had the Phoenix. No, he didn't have the Phoenix at that time in the second one. It was only towards the end of the movie. And so maybe the Phoenix in need, and then you went ahead and instead of saying in need, now it's, hey, when he's in need and dying, is that's when you get your Phoenix. So anybody out there really wanting a Phoenix, you got to be in need and you got to be dying. And those are the two premises. A fiery Phoenix will appear. So you can quote me on that, and you can hold me to it. And if you don't get one, you can go after the writers of Fantastic Beasts, Secrets of Dumbledore, because that's what they said. So, just as an FYI. Other than that, I have nothing else. I would rate this movie, as far as the first and second Fantastic Beast, top tier. The first one 4, the second one a 4. I would even go so far as like a 4.2. It was great. Out of 5 on this one, I'm going with a solid 2. Didn't have Johnny Depp. The plot was so lackluster that it tried to make up for it with sweet animations and cool wand work. And I'll admit, if I were anything less than an adult, meaning if I were a child watching this, I would think it would be sick as fuck. But as an adult, the plot was a little lackluster for me. So that's gonna do it for me. So I want to thank everybody for listening to my episode, my solo episode without Garrett. And for Beard and a Half movie reviews, I'm Tyler, and we'll see you later.